40 years ago, Doug invented interactive computing in the large sense of the word. He gave us the tools that we can use, the mouse, the keyboard in front of the computer, word processing, and so on. So in a sense, it's like a new vehicle that we can use when we travel through our worlds of information and communication. But what I find equally amazing and intriguing and provocative is that he also changed the information itself. He challenged us to change our understanding, to look around and try to figure out the nature of this information. What is a word, for instance? Is the word something that is only spoken? Of course not. Is it something that is only written? Of course not. With digital information, a word is something that can be interacted with in whole new ways. He showed this with Augment, where he could, with a few commands, flip paragraphs back and forth. He could change the way things look. He could look things up. He could move it around. He could share it. He could do things that we really cannot even do with a lot of the knowledge work tools we have today. So I found this very inspirational and started the HyperWords project, whose aim is solely to further the cause of making the text more interactive. It's not just a tool, it's also trying to pick up in a small way of Doug's view that information isn't what we used to think it is. Information can be anything. Text, which is probably where most of human intellectual endeavor is communicated, should be more interactive. It should not only be left to sports people running down a ski slope or gamers playing a game to have deep interaction. We should also have that when we're sitting down working with basic textual knowledge. So that was a long introduction, I apologize, but please have a look at this short demo of HyperWords, which is currently a Firefox edition. There are other versions that you can learn about if you go to the website hyperwords.net. I hope that you will bring your own knowledge worker tools, your team augmentation tools, well, anything that fits anything of Doug's work, and bring it to the program for the future to honor Doug. HyperWords was designed to support the basic knowledge work process, which includes finding useful information while avoiding useless information, reading and interacting with that information, analyzing it, discussing it, and producing new information. The most basic part of HyperWords is maybe letting you more easily find information through search engines or reference works. For example, let's have a look at a picture of Dr. Engelbart. With HyperWords, all you need to do is select the name, then under search, go to images and video, and you don't even need to click, you just hover on Google. There's a picture of Doug. Yeah, lots of information you can get. Let's just look up Stanford Research Institute, references Wikipedia, click, get a big window. If you just do it like this, in Wikipedia you get a tiny little tooltip thing. Let's have a look at what Doug called view specs, and we just think of as being able to interact with the text to change how you read it. One really cool and basic thing is this first paragraph here in Doug's paper. It's very, very heavy, and on a computer screen, not necessarily always so easy to read. So what I do, I select it, and then from the HyperWords menu I choose View and Flow. And now it flows the text out like this, breaking on commas and or not, etc., making it a bit easier to skim. So we can look here, for instance, and by complex situations we include the professional problems of diplomats, executives, social scientists, and so on. Much easier to read. There's a lot of information here, and sometimes a document has a table of contents manually created. Sometimes it doesn't. With HyperWords, you click here on the left-hand side, and you get a dynamically generated table of contents. Here is the introduction that we just played with. We can go down to maybe the basic perspective. Doug here talks about the HLAM-T system. What's that all about? Sometimes when you read a document, you've been introduced to text earlier and you kind of forget what something meant. So we can do this. show first occurrence of HLAMT, and it's just a headline. That's not very useful. You can also look in the last in case it's in the glossary somewhere. Or of course, why not have it instantly give you an outline? If you only wanted to read paragraphs with HLAMT, you can do that too. View, only, paragraphs. Then it rebuilds the document. It removes all the paragraphs where it's missing. You see, here's an example of where it is. In fact, what we can do is view, highlight all the occurrences. You can really see that all the black text, other than the headlines for chapters and sections, have this in it. The other paragraphs are shown in gray. They're not completely gone. So if you find, let's say, this discussion here very interesting and you want to look at more, you can actually do that. I will now refresh this page. Now, for the benefit of foreign listeners, why don't we translate this from English to, let's say Japanese. That always looks nice. And it translates in the text itself. There's no reason why a web page should be a poster. It should allow you to play with the text exactly how you want. Augmenting teams means making it slightly easier to communicate, amongst other things. So with HyperWords, you can select what you think is interesting, and then you can go to blog it with various blogging systems or tag it. But you can also email it immediately, which means it takes the selected text plus the URL and opens it up in a new ready-to-go email. So in that spirit, I hope to see you at the program for the future to honor Doug on his 40th anniversary. Please bring whatever tools you are developing that you feel will help augment teams doing knowledge work.